Hello and welcome to a tutorial video for how to use freeze, commit, and bounce in your Pro Tools sessions. This is for the Hybrid Mix Techniques class. So I've kind of set up a very particular little session here. It's a very short, small snippet of a song, and I've got a bass drum which sounds poopy, so I've replaced it with a kick sample from snare trigger, and they're both bused together to a kick bus, and that kick bus is going off to the drums bus. And so I've got processing on the sample, I've got trigger, and I've got a little bit of FabFilter EQ, and then it goes off to this kick bus, and the kick bus, I've just destroyed it with a Sans amp, a hardware insert, and then that's going off to some other processing. And it doesn't sound good, that's not the point, but I also have some really crazy automation on the fader, and this is just to demonstrate what happens with automation in this particular situation. Here, let me show you the automation. There it is, it's horrible. Even drew it with a pencil. Committing. So here's in freezing. So here's the deal. Like maybe you're working in a studio and you are using Slate Trigger, cool plugin to replace your sample, and you don't have it at home, and you want to take this session home and do some editing on your laptop, and you don't have this plugin. So you could sit and record this. You could bounce it and all that, or you could use Pro Tools' fabulous freeze feature. Freeze works in a couple different ways. I can select a track and right-click it, and I can hit freeze, and it will really quickly, in faster than real time, it will record the whole track, render the whole track there, because I did it to the whole track, and it's uneditable, which is important to realize. I cannot delete, I cannot edit, it's frozen, right? And if you look at it here in the mix window, you can see little, what are those, snowflakes, indicating that it's frozen, right? And of course it froze the whole track, so it froze my EQ as well as my slate. And this is cool. Oftentimes when I'm using freeze, I'm going to unfreeze here. You can undo it or just hit unfreeze and it brings it right back into the game. Oftentimes when I'm using the freeze feature, I will freeze just a specific plugin. Maybe I want to leave the EQ, maybe I have the EQ at home, or maybe I'm working on a mix where the computer's not powerful to support all my plugins and I want to freeze some particular plugins that are hogging a bunch of juice, like this trigger here, and I can right click on that and freeze up to this insert. It goes through the render process, and I still have access to the EQ, which is great. Now, of course, I can't edit the track, but I still have control over the fader and everything else. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to unfreeze. And unfreeze. I don't seem to, I can just undo in this situation. I should be able to unfreeze, right? Yes, I don't. So I think it's down here, actually. Unfreeze. Yeah, there we go. So this is all well and good. Freezing is very, very useful, but it doesn't work with hardware inserts. Hardware inserts are real time. You're going out to a piece of analog gear or digital gear or whatever. You're going out of the box, and freezing won't work because freezing is faster than real time. In this situation, you want to use the commit feature. So this is why I've got the kick, the original kick, and the sample. They're both going to this kick bus here, and you're going through this crazy Sans amp doing horrible things to it. And I would like to freeze that hardware piece of gear so I can go home and edit this outside of the studio. So in this situation, you can try freezing up to this insert, but it won't work because it won't record it. What you want is commit up to this insert. And this gives us a lot more options. Committing, we've got some choices here. And we want to do the whole track. We want to record it from start to finish. And it's going to consolidate all the clips. It's going to make one big long audio file when it records it. Do you want to record all the crazy automation on your fader? And maybe you do. Maybe you want to render this whole thing down with automation. In my situation, I do not. I want to still have availability to the automation to edit it, to change it as I'm working through my mix, so I'm not going to select that. And I want to, all the outputs and all that, I want to basically make a duplicate of this track as it is with that Sans amp recorded. So the send off to my plate reverb and all that, I want to leave that all alone. And at the very end, it's going to input this new track. It's going to put it at the end of the last selected track. And it's going to take the original tracks, which is all three of these guys. And when it's done, it's going to make them inactive. So let's do this. And of course, it has to do it in real time. But the clip is very short, which is cool. So that was it. And watch what happens. The little robot inside Pro Tools turned off everybody and made a new kick bus. And it's called CM for commit. And you can see here that the Sans amp has gone, and I still have my plugins that followed, and I still have my send to the plate, and I should have still my crazy automation, try it. Pretty horrible automation. So everything kind of remained. Let's see if the automation's there. Oh yeah, it's there. So this is a really powerful feature if you use hardware inserts, but you want to freeze them. Now, this does it only, one at a time here. If I had a session filled with hardware, this would be a kind of a laborious process, but it is still better than doing it manually. One last thing to show you that's unrelated but related. I'm gonna make that particular track inactive, and I'm gonna turn on the other guys back to the way it was. Actually, this doesn't really matter for the video, but just kind of restoring to where I was. There's one last feature that you can use. This is not available per plugin. It's available per track, and this is called Bounce. And Bounce has got its own set of options. Bounce is if you want to take a track or aux return or whatever and export it as an audio file. This is really useful if you were needing to export all the tracks in a song and you wanted to import them into another program like Logic or Reaper or something, or maybe you have a record label that's asking you to archive all your files. This will let you export multiple tracks simultaneously to an audio file format of your choice, and there you go. It's pretty simple. It does it by its and it's a great tool when you need to get everything out of Pro Tools and render all your plugins simultaneously to audio tracks. So play with that as needed. Okay, cool. I hope this video helps somebody out. Have a great day. Bye-bye.